This is incredible. How's life?
Everything is great. I'm back in Los Angeles at the moment. Was back for in Dublin for SaaS as you know, and it was a good week back at home in Dublin, but glad to be back in the sunshine here.
Yeah, I can imagine you are. Look, before we get into the thick of it, SaaS stock, winner of the $1 million check, or like it's up to 1 million, isn't it?
Correct.
How much did we take home, if you don't mind me asking?
Still working out the details. We
Nice.
actually closed a fundraise very recently, and so we're extending that fundraise and we're adding some of these amazing investors that I got to meet at SaaS into the mix. And so getting to know them a little bit, getting to learn about them, and we'll probably figure out where we're at in the coming weeks.
You're one of the very few guests that just was like, Viraj, let's just go straight on the stream. I don't need to do this pre-ramble with you. I deeply appreciate it because it's great because it's just like straight off the top of the dome. I've got to ask, you're a three-time founder, man. Like you've done, and I was sort of trying to understand like how did we get to Limelight where we are today? And I think you're probably going to do a better job of it than I can. But like it feels like there was a journey that's led up to this. Am I right?
I mean, how long do we have? I've got such an interesting journey to get to where we
Let's
are
let's
today.
let's get into it. I mean, like this is what this is purpose built for. I'll just extend it. I'll give you another segment downstream.
Well, I'll give you the high level and then we can go deeper on whatever makes most sense for you. So, been in B2B software for 12 years, started in marketing and then sales. And then this is actually now my third company. So, my first was a watch company in 2016. I decided that I had a master's in marketing and I loved watches. I loved e-commerce. Like, why not just go manufacture a watch from scratch and build a brand? And so that's what we did. I ended up using creators and influencers to grow it. I had the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders wearing my watches back in 2017, which is my claim to fame. Great experience taking that company from zero to one and then sold it in 2019. So about 2.5 years later.
Hmm.
From there, I really like software. I'd spent all of my career selling essentially to people leaders. I was selling B2B HR and talent acquisition software for about 10 years. And I decided, you know what, like, why not do it myself? So I went out on a limb and decided I want to be a tech entrepreneur and founder and, ended up starting a company, taking it from zero to a couple of million in ARR, raised a Series A and got it to 250 customers, 75 employees, and just had a great experience in taking that company and getting it to good initial traction. I feel like I wanted to take some time off after that company. I had been sprinting for 6 or 7 years. I moved out to LA to support my wife, who got a job at Netflix, and she's
Unbelievable.
also Irish. Yeah, we were living in New York for 5 years, the context is, and then she got this job at Netflix in LA, and I was like, you have to take that job. Let's just go
No
for one
brainer.
year and we'll figure it out. And we ended up staying for 7 years. So during the period of me transitioning out of my last company, I was like, I'm going to take 6 months off just to like recharge, relax. I had a 1 year old at the time. And the truth is that I got the itch very quickly and realized that my purpose is to go and build technology for good and for bad. Like it's a very intense job and it's very uncertain and I just love it. And so, yeah, the context is I decided I wanted to go sell to marketing leaders and I had a lot of experience in B2B SaaS. And I said, what's the future of marketing look like? And I just decided that in B2B, the future of marketing will be personality led.
Hmm.
It'll be people wanting to follow people and instead of logos. And so that means executive content, employee advocacy, influencer, creator, and so we just made this huge bet that the future of all B2B marketing is going to be people following people, not following logos, and corporations are going to put people in the front and center. And so we decided to launch a marketplace for B2B influencers. So we take incredible subject matter experts,
Right.
so people who have a LinkedIn, a newsletter, a podcast, a YouTube, a Twitter, who focus explicitly on B2B content, and we help them monetize their audience. And so we created this marketplace and available ad space to a lot of these companies to do paid content partnerships with them. And maybe I'll finish by saying the most well-known one is actually our first customer, Clay. Clay was our very first customer. They
No
started to work
way.
with us. We built the product alongside them, and if you've seen Clay on LinkedIn,
I
it's
have
more than
seen Clay
likely
on
the
LinkedIn. It's like 1 billion creators that are making clay product, like clay automations. It's incredible.
Yeah, and they've got a perfect product for influencer and creator because you can just create as many different stories about solving problems using their product. So they've been awesome to work with, and yeah, we've helped them. We now power their whole creator program, and I think a lot of companies are trying to replicate that. So it's a fun place to be. It's not without its challenges, of
Hmm.
course. We're a super lean team. We've obviously just raised some funding, which is awesome because it gives a bit more breathing room and a bit more resources. But yeah, that's where we're at the moment, and I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my career.
Awesome. All right. I think we're gonna start at the beginning for sure. What do we learn from marketing, building the watches in ecom? And how does that translate into what you know today about B2B? Like what did you pick up?
So I'll start with saying brand building. Like I
Yeah.
was always a very interested in brands and how to create brands. So I said, well, what if we could help grow this brand by using niche content creators? So we growth hacked Instagram. We were sending a ton of messages out to these very niche specific content creators who are small, like micro creators, and we just send them a watch. We'd be like, hey, like we'd love you to promote this product. Your audience is perfect for what we're building. And here's a watch if you want to take some photos. And so we were very good at creating content and user generated content of people wearing these watches from trusted audiences. And so that's number one. I think brand building is now even more important than ever in the age of AI. Like the moat is not the software. Every software is a commodity essentially. It's all getting very similar. The moat is brand and distribution.
Can I
So that
ask
was number one.
why? I've thought about this
Well,
deeply,
if you
and I'll give you some context because, like, if we think, and you've probably thought about this, like downstream, in 5, 10, 15 years, when everything's converged on one sort of like not one or two major players in the context of like the foundational models and the LLMs and the applications, the brands are sort of going to be sat behind that, and so brand in the context that we understand it today might look different. But like, am I going to use an Uber over a Lyft because I prefer the brand, or is it just still going to be optimized for cost and just like get me to my destination?
Viraj, such a great question, such a great example, which is like a very clear cut. I want the best price point
Right.
consumer product, which is I want to get from A to B. Truthfully, I'm less price sensitive. My wife kills me because I still go with Uber, even though
So
it's
do
a
I, to be
little bit
honest
more
with you.
expensive.
It's just I
So
just
the
want to see those
answer
cars go round.
Yeah. So the answer is like, okay, so maybe step back for a sec. We are focused on B2B companies. We don't focus on consumer products yet, although there's lots of consumer products that want access to these B2B audiences. We typically focus on B2B products. Okay. So in that realm, like my understanding, like my belief is that there is a buying committee. There's a group of people who need to decide upon acquiring a piece of technology to support their business, and it's solving a problem. And that
Mhm.
problem might be solved for a handful of people, and they need to make a decision about what vendor to go for. Of course, the most obvious is like, let's just bring up the feature list. Let's decide which product has which feature, and then let's decide on the price, right? But the truth is over time, all of those things are converging. It's become so competitive that basically companies and software companies have been doing this for the last decade, but even more so now. They just go and copy every other competitor and what they're doing. They're like, okay, like all these features, let's go build them. Okay, let's vibe code them and let's create the product and let's go sell it. And whatever they're doing seems to be working. Let's keep replicating. So everyone's just copying each other, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Where you stand out and where you're different is in the personality and the brand behind the product. So to influence the purchase of the product, it used to be just features and pricing. Now, in my opinion, it's how do I feel about that brand? Do I like the people working there? Do they post content? Do I see the product on a regular basis? Is it top of mind?
And so
And then are people talking about it positively?
you must love this. I wouldn't even call it a renaissance. I would this new flavor of marketing in the context of like employee branding, where companies are getting their workforce to actively be creators in their own right. And so like everyone is always selling.
100%. I mean, the it's funny because I have a very strong opinion on this. And then
Tell
I
me more.
meet executives and leaderships teams, and there's kind of two buckets. One bucket is I don't want my people to create content. That's just going to help them, go away and, make money on the side and potentially leave me and gain all of the value of the resources of my company and me employing them. That is archaic. That is that is going away. And if it hasn't gone away, it will go away in the next generation. It's still about 50% of the companies. The other 50% are like, these people are my salespeople. These people are helping me drive revenue and build awareness and build relationships and build community. So I have this very strong opinion on all companies should be doing content for their employees and actually incentivizing it and more than that, like enabling them, supporting them and promoting them and helping them create their own audiences because it only benefits the company over time.
I deeply believe I believe the same thesis, right? I think that, long term, like if we go on the meta scale, people have always bought from people, and will continue to buy from people, and it won't just be the logos. But in the context of like the relationships that you can build, if you can win share of mind consistently on what we're consuming, why do you think everyone loves Doak and Diary of a CEO? It's because everyone is on LinkedIn. It's consistently posting about it from inside the company and inside a flight. And so they are constantly at, top of share of mind to their direct ICP.
Yeah, and you know what? That company started very niche. That they were
Mm.
interviewing very specific content creators to tell, or just like subject matter experts to share knowledge, and then they went broader, and they've gone much broader. And there's actually been kind of some backlash there because he brings on, a couple of people who have very wacky ideas, but like the idea is to just grow the audience and be universal, and I think that's a very strong competitive advantage. But if you go back to your question at the very beginning, which was like, okay, the watch company, what did I learn? Like distribution was number one. Like how do we get content, distribution, scale the brand? Number two is probably like, how do you stand out from the crowd? Like we decided to build, if you remember Daniel Wellington in 2016, right? This kind of $100 watch or $120 watch. And they were exploding at the time because it
Yep.
was a very stylish quality, but very low cost. I decided that we needed to go build that for patriotic country Americans. As an Irishman, I was like, you know what? Country Americans
Why
have
why did
boots,
that
they have
work?
jeans. Well, if you think about it, I did a deep analysis of the market and was like, they have boots, they have jeans, they have like hats, they have belts, they don't have a watch. So we designed a watch for them and made it a patriotic country American watch. And again, if you come back to it, like we were so deliberate on who we were, what our brand stood for. And because of that, we were able to build a community. And I think that is incredibly important in today's world in B2B, like bringing it to the business world and selling to other businesses. Like you're basically selling to people. People are the decision making power. So build a brand that's personality led and that's that people can resonate with.
And so we jump to HR software, and it seems the theme here is just consistently people. Scaled
Sure.
that
Yeah.
business up. Uh, did you exit out of that?
Yeah, I hired a chief revenue officer to take over the business after 4 years of running it, and the business got sold, I think, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, to a consulting company. So overall, great experience for me in taking the company from 0 to 1 and getting it off the ground. And yeah, it was awesome. And for context, what we actually focused on was helping underrepresented groups find employment. So if you ask me how I ended up in that, when I came to the US, I was an immigrant on a visa.
Hmm.
I had 4 student visas, and I was like an expert in visa processes. I wrote an online playbook on how to help Irish immigrants navigate the talent acquisition process in corporate America. Joined Indeed, the large job site. While I was at Indeed, I was in the sales department, and I said, I really want to be an entrepreneur. So an incubator program came up, and I put my hand up and I said, why don't we go build a remote marketplace for international talent and help our US customers hire non-US citizens? So taking my playbook and making a business out of it. Well, I got to the final round, presented the idea to the CEO and chief innovation officer back in 2015, so 10 years ago, got funded with 250K to launch an internal incubator. And then they did a background check and they didn't know I was on a student visa. I was working in a sales capacity. And they were like, you are replacing American's job. You cannot work in a sales capacity on a visa. And I was like, oh. And they were like, we're going to have to let you go. You can go back to Dublin office and work there for a while. You've been an awesome employee, but we can't employ you here in the US. And so the reason that I ended up building a HR software company is because of that experience. I basically brought that business that I had within Indeed to life externally, and there's just an awesome experience.
And so if we get to Limelight to where we are today, and obviously we touched a little on what the future looks like, but right now, is it quite simply just matching the right creators with businesses, or am I thinking about the problem slightly wrong?
Yeah, I mean, that's number one, right? That's the
Right.
hardest thing to do, especially in
Why is it
B2B. So
difficult?
So, for context, if you go to LinkedIn right now, very hard to find at scale a lot of content creators because they don't have the
Agreed.
ability to search by follower count. We went through 30,000 profiles. It took us 3 months to do, and we found the top 3,500 creators from day one. That was 2 years ago. So I think, like, to answer your question, it's sourcing, right? That's the most obvious, finding these people. But a lot of companies overlook influencer marketing is very messy. Like, you're dealing with individuals, content calendars, payments, scheduling, egos. So there has to be some sort of system in place to allow you to grow and scale this. I'm not talking like 3 or 4 creators, I'm talking 200. When you get up to that level of scale, you need a whole system that consolidates all of that communication, all of that payments, and all of that art. We basically need to build infrastructure that powers it. So the second piece of our product is actually a CRM, where you stay organized and track everything. And then the third piece, probably the most critical, is measurement. We are very focused on measurability because in B2B, it's not as clear as clicking a link and buying a pair of sunglasses on Instagram. You have to provide an enormous amount of data to show that this content influenced the sales pipeline. So those are the three pillars of our product: finding creators, organizing and growing them through the CRM, and then measuring the results. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun to build. And for context, like right now, we work with Webflow, ZoomInfo, Bill.com, Zero, ActiveCampaign, a lot of billion-dollar businesses, and all of them come inbound to the product. We have not done any paid marketing, mostly customer referrals and my content on LinkedIn. I'm very noisy on LinkedIn. For my wife kills me. I post content 5 days a week, and it seems to drive revenue, and that's why I do it.
I completely agree with you that posting on LinkedIn, it might be noisy, it might be buzzy, but I think there's a huge amount of like very high signal content that can come out. You can create a huge amount of value even through the text based and the video based content that people post about. It also feels like the Wild West a little bit still. It's navigated away from a social from a like very specific work platform to a more social work platform. I don't have the same feeling going on LinkedIn that one has going on Instagram, but I still think X is ripe for the taking right now. There's a completely different playbook over there, and LinkedIn and X sort of have a similar flavor in a lot of capacities with the style of content.
Yeah, I would agree with you. We've done campaigns across Twitter on a regular basis, right? Most companies come to us and say, hey, we want to do LinkedIn as a primary, but we're also interested in X. The challenge with X, if I'm honest with you, it has great virality and great scale, but those people, it's sometimes they're not self-identified. They're not
Agreed.
like, you can't tell who they actually are. They could just be a name with a blank face, and that's not as powerful as in LinkedIn, where you know that who that person is. You know what company they work at, what job title they have. You have a lot more demographics about them when they interact with content, where you don't get that on Twitter. Even though you can get the virality and the reach, it's hard to translate it all the way to, who are you actually influencing.
And so I guess I've got to ask you the question around like these AI avatars that are going to come out. Like VO 3 point, is it 3.1 that has just got released in the last week and a half, does characters, so much better than VO3. It's hyper realistic. Does that change how you think about the people creating content, the influencers? If we are just orchestrating them together, do brands bring that in house, or will they consistently rely on people to buy from people?
That's such a touchy subject in our company, Viraj. I love that you asked that question. We're talking about this right now. We're like, okay, AI video has got so good that you could create a replication or a replica of somebody and you wouldn't even know. We see it as a potential opportunity for us because I think a lot of companies, for context, and maybe I'm giving away the secret sauce here of what we're thinking about doing, but who cares? It's all about execution in the end of the day. So ideas don't really matter. So one of the ideas that we've thought about is, well, what, and I went to our creators. I actually interviewed a ton of them, especially the video ones. And I said, hey, like, if we could create a replica of you for a paid ad for one of our customers, like doing a demo, would that be interesting to you? Would you be open to it? And they were like, as long as I don't have to post it on my social and as long as I have some level of control over the content, I don't want it to be explicit content. I was like, no, it's just going to be a product demo with you and it's going to look like you, but it's going to be for paid ads for some of our brands. We see that as a potential channel. So to give you, maybe to slow down a bit, I think AI generated video is here and it's coming faster than you ever before. In fact, if you go to your news feeds right now, like it's becoming, you won't even know which content is AI generated or
I
not.
completely agree.
So So our belief is that you still care about the people you follow that you know are real people, right? So the likeness of those people is still valuable. So we're trying to think about how do we merge these two together? How do we get the likeness of somebody that you know and you trust and merge it with the immediate content creation that can be generated that's so good you wouldn't even know.
Mhm.
And that removes a lot of the friction of the creators having to create the content. And so we're thinking about this from more of a paid ads perspective. Can we build something that these brands that we work with can license the likeness of a creator and use it for paid ads instead of using it for just social posts?
How do you build
So that's a
a
bit of inside scoop.
how do you build a financial model that financial and incentive model that incentivizes creators to do that, but not take the onus of not put the onus on them to make that paid ad or that content, but rather it's either the brand internally licensing the likeness, or it's you as the company as the intermediary between the two saying like, hey, we've built this feature, feel free to use it and it's going to increase your revenue payout.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I would say I look at it as licensing.
Right.
I think we can build the infrastructure that can create the content very quickly. We have
Yep.
access to all of the creators' content. And so um, I do believe that like the trusted audiences that these people built are incredibly valuable and their likeness is incredibly valuable. The hard point is actually the friction and the inefficiencies of creating content. And so,
Mhm.
we just feel like a licensing product makes sense. And again, early stages of this, I'm interviewing brands, I'm interviewing creators, and I'm saying, hey, how much would you want to be paid for this? And like, is there like a licensing deal that you'd be open to? A lot of brands, a lot of creators will be a bit skeptical to this, just given the nature of like how much time and energy they've put into their building their audience.
Mhm.
And they also don't want to be taken advantage of. They don't want to say, okay, I'm just going to sign a license agreement for my likeness in perpetuity, where you can just put me on all your brand. Like it's almost like if you one person put this to me, and Viraj, I'm going a little bit off course here, but I'll just share with you a short story, which is I
Please.
actually think it's very, very similar to TV advertising. And it's the exact same. It's like,
Completely.
hey, are you interested in being part of a TV advert? There's very few creators or people who care about their personal brand that would say no, unless it's way off, like unless the brand is like something they completely disagree with. If you're going to pay them to go on TV, they're going to go on TV. And and so I think the price point is actually lower than you might think. Um, so yeah, I view it as paid ads for very similar to TV, and I think that's what we're thinking about. But again, I don't want to get over our skis. We still think that there's a huge amount of opportunity without AI generated content, or specifically video content, to still exponentially grow our business. And I believe, Viraj, that we're at a 3% market penetration right now, maybe 3 to 5% of B2B companies doing influencer marketing. And
Mhm.
I think that percentage is going to get up to 25% in the next 18 months. And the reason I believe I'm so advocate of that is actually because the one way we're growing right now is customers seeing their competitors do this. It's there's so much virality to it.
Straight up FOMO.
Once you see your competitors doing it, you're like, why don't we have that? What we should have that. So I'll give you a story. Zoom Info came to us and they basically saw their competitors doing this and they inbounded to me and they said, hey, I want to sign up immediately, send me the agreement and contract. I don't even need a demo. I need your product. My CMO told me that we need your product. And so we're ready to go. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, that's the speed at which these big organizations are making decisions about this.
And so this fallacy that they move incredibly slowly is actually wrong. It's when they want something, they can deliver. They can actually act on it quite quickly.
We have got sped through the procurement processes of 8 different enterprise customers. They have skipped the SOC 2 compliance, which is a huge sticking point that slows down all procurement
Yep.
processes. They skip it. They say, "Hey, I know the way around it. It's okay. We can work with this while you don't have SOC 2. We're working on SOC 2, of course, and we're going to get it. But in the interim, they just speed you through the process. So yeah, enterprise clients can move quickly when they know their competitors are doing something and they need to catch up.
So create an environment for that. That's really interesting. Not a lot of people come on and talk about that, so I appreciate it. Look, I'm very conscious that we're taking up a little bit of your time in building this generational company and in the context of B2B. Can I get you on a quick fire real quick?
Sure,
All right, let's
shoot.
do it. What are we incredibly optimistic about right now?
What are we incredibly optimistic about? Hmm. I mean, it would be selfish to say the future of our company. I feel like
You can say
I'm
what you like.
optimistic about.
I leave them incredibly open ended.
I would be optimistic about our ability to find product market fit and scale the company, and more so than ever, which is very exciting. And then I'm also optimistic um, in the future entrepreneurs that want to start tech companies. I feel like now is the best time ever to build a tech company. It's the hardest in the sense of like standing out from the crowd, but it's the most cost effective and the cheapest. It used to be that you had to spend $1 million to build technology. Now you can do it for 10,000, maybe less. And so, yeah, future entrepreneurship and innovation, I'm extremely bullish on.
What are we deeply pessimistic about?
AI generated video content.
Thoughts on Sora 2?
Sora 2 is freaking awesome. So I'm going
The
backwards on
the
this.
app, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I've logged in a few times. I had to delete it a few times. It's super addictive.
Really? Wow, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I love to ask founders this question, and before I let you go, I have to. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of like your favorite founders of all time?
Oh God. Well, I'm an Irish guy, right? So there's a handful of incredibly successful Irish entrepreneurs. Top of the list is the Collison brothers from Stripe.
You know,
Like they are the
I've got to give you
cream
your
of the crop.
flowers where flowers are due. When you came on the call, I heard the accent and just like the cadence in which you talk. There is a whole lot of parallels, right? It's just
Yeah,
the
I mean,
thoughtfulness in every single sentence is just so interesting.
yeah. Well, it's 7:30 in the morning here, and I had my coffee beforehand, so I got a bit clear-minded. You didn't catch me at the end of the day where things can get a little bit foggy. But yeah, Collison Brothers at Stripe, number one, and I won't give you any more because it would depreciate them.
I love it. David, this has been an absolute pleasure. I hope we get to do it again at some point. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, have me back whenever you want. Nice to meet you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. David on the show.